Chapter 32. Show? Kei stepped into the guest house. Hey, where's my boyfriend? If the happy grin on Kei's face was any indication, he loved saying that out loud as well. Bathroom. They'd had an amazing overnight stay in Napa, each of them posting a photo on Instagram before they left. Shoyo's was a photo of Kei, sitting across the table from him with the tagline, "Lucky me." The comments from fans were overwhelmingly positive, which was a huge relief to Kei. They'd be shooting the final episode next week, followed by a 2-month break. Everything had come together as planned. And then some. There you are. Kei stepped up behind Shoyo and kissed his shoulder, looking at his in the mirror. Tadashi is stopping by in a few minutes. Tadashi? Why? I'm not sure. He just asked that we both be here. Kei looked around and noticed that Shoyo still hadn't packed up his things. When are you moving into the main house? Shoyo turned around, leaning on the bathroom sink. I thought I'd work on it tonight. Kei stepped closer, tucking his finger into the waistband of Shoyo's jeans. Why the worried look? I don't know. I guess I'm not sure you're going to enjoy sharing a closet with me. Or a bathroom. Or a house. Maybe I should stay out here for a while longer. You kept my house extremely tidy when I couldn't. Kei tucked a loose strand of hair behind Shoyo's ear. I really don't think it's going to be a problem. I did that for you. Because I knew it was what you expected. Shoyo lowered his gaze. Can't I just keep my things out here? We don't have to rush into this. Kei lifted Shoyo's chin. I know what I'm getting myself into. I've imagined you stripping your clothes off at the side of the bed and then crawling under the covers. Even right now, I know your toothbrush is on one side of the sink and the toothpaste is on the other. It's fine. You've imagined that. Huh? Shoyo sat on the counter and pulled Kei in between his legs. What else have you imagined? Waking up in your arms. I really want to wake up in your arms. And I don't want you rushing out of our bedroom to get ready in the morning. I want you right there with me in that big bathroom with the double sinks. Kei put his hands on Shoyo's waist, caressing his stomach with his thumbs. He'd imagined touching Shoyo like this so many times and had kept himself from actually doing it on a daily basis. Little touches, like when Shoyo was making dinner and Kei walked past him to get to the fridge. He often wanted to stop and kiss his shoulder, put a hand on his hip and thank him for another incredible meal. So many missed opportunities, but not anymore. Shoyo loosened a button on Kei's shirt, revealing a little more of his chest. What about the closet, where everything is perfectly spaced and the shoes are all shiny and all the boxers are color coordinated? Why, Shoyo Hinata, did you go rifling through my underwear drawer when I was in the hospital? Kei joked, because when Shoyo said it like that, he felt embarrassed that his little world was so structured and controlled. Shoyo's eyes were locked on Kei's chest. The only thing I'm willing to admit right now is that I want to rip this shirt off you. He leaned forward and pressed his lips against Kei's neck. You smell so good. Kei tilted his head back and put his hand on Shoyo's head, loving what those warm lips did to his insides. You can rip it off me later. If you want. In fact, I insist on it. He couldn't believe how much he wanted Shoyo. It had never been like that with his wife or his previous girlfriends. Sex wasn't something he craved. Not until Shoyo. His phone rang and he pushed a button, letting Tadashi in the gate. Then tucked it back in his pocket. Come on, let's get this meeting over with. He pulled Shoyo's face to his and kissed him, letting their tongues touch. He pulled away before Shoyo could deepen the kiss. Promise me you'll move in with me tonight. Shoyo buttoned Kei's shirt back up. Let's go talk to Tadashi. And then you can beg me to move in with you. Which, of course, will turn me on. And then, Kei pulled Shoyo off the counter. You are such a pain in my ass. Let's go talk to Tadashi. He slapped Shoyo's butt and pushed him out of the bathroom. So many times, Shoyo had imagined walking arm in arm with Kei, the way they were right now. How many times had they walked along this beautiful swimming pool from the house to the guest house? And vice versa, never touching one another, keeping a safe distance between them. He pushed his hand a little deeper into Kei's back pocket. Does it feel different with me? What do you mean? Well, you've only been in relationships with women. So I'm just wondering if it feels different. Kay smiled, a look of contentment washing over his face. It's hard to describe how I feel right now. Blissful is probably pretty accurate. Validated that I was right about my sexuality. And proud of myself for taking this huge risk. It certainly paid off handsomely. Are you calling me handsome? Shoyo joked. Oh. Kay stopped at the open sliding glass door. Tadashi doesn't look happy. He mumbled through his teeth. He stepped into the house and greeted him with a bright smile. Hey, Tadashi. Your usual? Tadashi stopped pacing by the sofa. That would be fine. He eyed Shoyo closely as he walked into the room. He furrowed his brow, wondering why he was looking at him that way. Kay pulled 3 beers out of the fridge and slid one across the kitchen island for Tadashi. He opened one for Shoyo and handed it to him. Then opened his own and took a sip while keeping his hand on Shoyo's back. Tadashi took a sip, his eyes focusing on Kay's hand that was now wrapped around Shoyo's hip. He set his beer down. If you two are really together now, this is going to be worse than I thought. Kay glanced at Shoyo and grinned, which caused Shoyo to grin so hard he almost chuckled. We are. Kay confirmed. No more faking it. He turned his attention back to Tadashi. Now, what the hell are you talking about? He set his stare on Shoyo. I got a call from your ex-boyfriend. He has a story to tell and he's going to start telling it if you don't take his calls. Shoyo's smile faded. Tobio? What story? What story? Tadashi repeated, incredulously. Are you really going to deny telling him all about our little agreement? Shoyo shook his head in confusion. What? I didn't. He couldn't possibly know. All the happiness drained from Kay's face. He removed his hand from Shoyo's body and moved away. Out of arm's reach. Shoyo's face paled. Kay. He swallowed hard, his throat constricting, getting no reaction from Kay besides an angry glare. He turned to Tadashi. What did he tell you? Tadashi ignored Shoyo and kept his eyes on Kay. I don't think I need to tell you how bad this could get. No, I'm very aware. Shoyo put up his hands. Wait. Both of you. Just stop. I didn't tell Tobio a damn thing. Whatever he's saying. It's bullshit. He knows how much you've been paid. He knows why you've been paid. That's not exactly bullshit, Shoyo. Tadashi's jaw flexed. He was so angry. And as of this moment, I am no longer your publicist. My only concern right now is helping Kay. Shoyo's head was spinning. He couldn't possibly. He grabbed his head, trying to remember if in his state of grief over the death of his father, he'd shared details he shouldn't have. It didn't seem possible. But the night he left the hotel with Tobio was all kind of a big blur. Get out, Kay said, his voice low and hard. His arms were folded tightly and his eyes were on the floor. Shoyo turned to him. What? Kay's face was turning red and his eyes were burning with tears. Shoyo made a move toward him. But Kay put up his hand. Don't. He took another step backward. Don't do this, Kay. Not after. Kay finally met his gaze. His eyes filled with anger. How could you? He growled. His teeth clenched. I didn't. That's what I'm trying to tell you. Shoyo took another step toward Kay but stopped. His chest deflating. I haven't betrayed you. I love you. Shoyo was trying to remain calm. He desperately wanted to tear into Tadashi for his false accusations and for dumping him like trash. But that wouldn't help his case with Kay. And Kay was the only thing that mattered right now. Please, Kay, let me find out what's going on. Let me talk to Tobio. I've been ignoring his calls after what he did, dragging me to Times Square. But I'll call him. I'll fix this. Just, don't shut me out. That doesn't change the fact that he already knows. Tadashi said, behind him. And I can guarantee you, someone will pay him a lot of money for this story. Damn it, Shoyo. Why? Shoyo whipped around. Shut up, Tadashi. You're not helping. He's right. You broke the non-disclosure agreement. Not to mention my trust. And God knows what he'll do with it. Blackmail me, maybe? Or you? He sounds like a real peach. This boyfriend of yours. Oh, God. This again? We're going to fight about Tobio? Shoyo cringed at his own words. I'm sorry. That was. Any tears that were in Kei's eyes had dried up. There was only contempt there as he stared Shoyo down. I guess this explains why he was so arrogant at the funeral. Calling you the father of his children. He knew all along that we were in a fake relationship. Shoyo's world was crashing down around him and he was helpless to stop it. He sucked back his emotions. But a tear still managed to fall. He quickly wiped it away. Do you really want me to leave? Kei didn't say anything. You have to say it. Shoyo ventured a step toward him. Whispering, Kei, I love you. He got a hand on Kei's arm. But it was quickly snatched away. Just go. Shoyo didn't move. Go. Shoyo managed to get outside before the tears really started. He ran to the guest house. And once inside, he grabbed his head and paced around, wondering what the hell to do. He was being kicked out again. Everything they'd shared the last few days, Kei was just going to throw it all away. Pretend it never happened. So, what, they'd go back to being business associates? Was that even possible? How were they supposed to keep working together? Shoyo didn't have the answers. But he knew that trying to stay in Kei's house against his will wouldn't solve anything. So he packed an overnight bag, grabbed his keys, and went out the side gate. He got to his Range Rover and stopped. He looked at his keys and then gently set them on the hood of the car. He walked out the gate on foot and called for a car. Tadashi watched him go and then sat on the sofa next to Kei. There are only 3 people who know the kind of details Tobio gave me. And 2 of us are sitting here. I know. Kei hadn't moved much. He was in a state of shock. Unable to even comprehend the betrayal that had just been exposed. He couldn't cry. He couldn't yell. He didn't want to feel anything yet. Half an hour ago, he'd been basking in his belief that he'd found real, honest, deep love with Shoyo, the kind he'd always longed for. He was ready to stop living his life alone behind those big gates, keeping everyone at arm's length. He was so ready to live out loud and let the world see how happy he was. That was gone now, in the blink of an eye. It was all gone. Tadashi wrung his hands together. I'm sorry for the things I said the other day encouraging you to give Shoyo a chance. I was wrong about him. Wrong from the beginning, I guess. How do we contain this, Tadashi? If this gets out. Kei gasped for air and covered his mouth with his hands. The fear of what could happen hitting him full force. I brought him to my show. If the producers find out, they'll think I planned the whole thing from the beginning. You couldn't fake a broken arm. Surely they'll get that. Tadashi rubbed his forehead, trying to come up with a plan. Kei stared at the front door. A part of him wanted Shoyo to walk through it. Yes. He'd yell at his for being so stupid. But at least he'd be in the room. Kei doubled over himself, wrapping his arms around his stomach, which was roiling so hard he felt like he would vomit. We need Shoyo to contain this. It can't get out. Period. Tadashi pulled Kei up off the sofa. He's on the road, waiting for a taxi. Go talk to him. Tell him he has to do whatever it takes to keep this under wraps. Kei stared at the door again but didn't move. Look, Shoyo's a hell of an actor. But he's not that good. From what I just saw, I'd say he's really in love with you. Does that even matter now? Kei couldn't hold back the tears. He wiped his eyes, but they just kept falling. And then, without any forewarning, a violent rage boiled up inside him. He lunged for a vase sitting on the coffee table and with all his might, he threw it against the wall. Ah! He screamed as the pain ripped through his arm. Tadashi tried to grab him, but he pushed him away. His eyes were full of fury as he stared him down. You too, get out of my house. Tadashi reached for him again. Kei, no, you did this. Tadashi, you and your stupid ideas. He balled up his fists and yelled as loud as he could. Get the fuck out of my house. Tadashi put his hands up. Okay, I'm going. He got in his car and sat there, trying to come up with a solution he could take back inside to Kei. A plan of some sort. After a while, he gave up and drove away. Shoyo opened the hotel room door. looking less than pleased to see his guest. Thanks for seeing me. Do I have a choice? He closed the door and leaned against the wall with his arms folded. Tadashi could say whatever he needed to say. And then he would go back to the bottle of whiskey sitting on the bedside table. I don't know who looks worse. You or me, Tadashi joked. Shoyo didn't laugh. Of course he didn't laugh. His whole life had just been blown up. Again. Look. I know I could have handled that a lot better. Think so, Tadashi. Let me guess. Kei fired you. Shoyo sat on the bed and poured a shot of whiskey into a glass. He offered it to Tadashi. He sat on the other bed and downed it in one gulp. I don't know yet. He kicked me out before we could talk about options. Options, Shoyo scoffed, and took a sip of his own drink. At least you have some. How did this happen, Shoyo? Why would you break the contract? God. Tadashi still thought he'd purposely broken the contract. After everything, months of being right by Kei's side, helping him heal, saving his goddamned show. Because even if Kei couldn't admit it, his ratings had been dipping. Even after all of that, neither of them had a single ounce of faith in him. I want nothing more than to go back to New York and figure that out, Tadashi. But we start shooting the season finale tomorrow. He downed the rest of his drink and wiped his mouth with the back of his hand. I can't go anywhere. Not yet. What do you mean? You want to figure it out? Are you saying you really didn't tell Tobio? Tears welled up in his eyes. He tried to blink them away. I would never betray Kei like that. Just the thought of it made him want to vomit. He put his hand on his stomach and slowly breathed out, letting the wave of nausea pass. I have no idea how Tobio found out. I only saw him. Shoyo met Tadashi's gaze. Oh, God. He stood up. Oh, my God. What? Tadashi also stood up. Tell me. Shoyo's eyes searched the room for answers. He must have seen the contract in my suitcase. Realizing it was his own fault, he sat back down. God, that must be it. Tadashi sat next to him, putting his hand on his forearm. What, Shoyo? Tell me. Kei was questioning whether or not I should stay in the guest house. He thought maybe I should move out before everything was set into motion. With the show. With us. I got angry. Shoyo covered his mouth with his hands, realizing this was the only explanation. What happened after that? I packed everything up and went back to New York. I needed to rent out my apartment and I asked Tobio to stop by and pick up some of the things he'd left behind. Shoyo turned and looked Tadashi in the eye. The rental agent came by at the same time. I was with him for an hour while Tobio was in the bedroom, packing up his things. That has to be it. He must have gone through my suitcase. Tadashi seemed to breathe a sigh of relief. But the look on his face told Shoyo he was still angry with him. It was careless. He knew it was careless. You have to call Tobio. You have to contain this. It can't get out. Do you believe me? Shoyo desperately needed someone to believe him, even if it was his fault. Will Kei believe me? I don't know. He's locked himself up in that big house and won't take my calls. Shoyo picked up his phone. I should call him. Wait. Don't. Tadashi took the phone and set it back on the table, taking a deep breath to calm himself. Let's not get ahead of ourselves. First we need to let him calm down. You'll see him on the set tomorrow. Shoyo's eyes widened. We can't wait until we're in a public place to figure this out. Yes, you can. Kei is a consummate professional. What you need to focus on is containing your ex-boyfriend. Tell him that you'll go and see him as soon as you can. Keep him quiet, Shoyo. Shoyo huffed at that. Pardon me if I don't trust your advice anymore. Tadashi, you're still under contract. That hasn't changed. You're Kei's fake boyfriend for a few more months, whether you like it or not. So, how about you use those acting chops you're so proud of? Convince everyone that everything is just peachy and we might get through this in one piece. Shoyo couldn't believe what he was hearing. My father just died. And the man I love just dumped me. And my ex-boyfriend is blackmailing me. And you want me to? Shoyo's expression went from complete disbelief to understanding. Oh, you want me to save your sorry ass because this was all your fucking idea? Is that it, Tadashi? Tadashi headed for the door. He went to open it and then stopped and turned around. Save K. If you really love him. Then save him.